All right, it's time for some watch talk because you have been asking and asking. So let's talk about Coros versus Garmin. For those of you who are new here, I am Amanda Brooks, a longtime running coach, often gear tester, and runner since 2002 myself as well. So, gear testing. It is something that I enjoy, that I get to do, but I admit that I am extremely picky, particularly about certain features like, say, heart rate accuracy. So let's get into this. I've got obviously a number of models here. So this is the Coros Pace 3, which is the newest model that they have come out with. And this is, we'll say we've got a Garmin Phoenix here. So the biggest, massive, most different thing between the two watches is that Coros chooses to only have one dial on the side, and that is how you navigate the watch. Most of them now, or some of them now, I should say, have touchscreen as well. But as you can see on mine currently, touchscreen does not work. I've had that problem before. Garmin, however, has stuck to having 4 to 5 buttons depending on the model. Most of them are at 5 now, and then on top of that, also having touchscreen. So you can see that one is actually scrolling through. So that right off the bat is going to be the biggest difference between the two. The other thing that Coros really tried to do, they were trying to come in and say they were the budget-friendly watch. And for a while they were. However, now their watches are really becoming on par with everything else because they keep adding features. One of the things that Coros does that a lot of users really and truly like is that, similar to an Apple Watch, when there is some kind of system update, a new feature, they push it out to all existing models. So you do get to stay on top of most of the new features that are happening, unless it's some kind of specific hardware thing that changes battery life or something like that. Garmin doesn't usually do that. They come out with a brand new model that has new stuff and different things on it. So they're going to push out, bugs and small things like that. But Coros will be more similar to when you get an Apple iOS 9 update and you have basically all the new features that the newest watch has. So that is a big benefit here, and one of the things that a lot of people like. The other thing that people often point to with Coros is that it has a little bit better battery life. Now again, this is all going to come down to like which model. So this is the Coros Apex, as I noted. This is the Pace 3. I mean, battery life is going to change wildly across Garmin as well. For me, there are a couple of things. One, the newer Garmins now have this AM OLED screen. I get all my different things, and you can see how bright and bold and brilliant it is. It makes these screens extremely easy to read when you compare that to what's happening here on the Coros. Oop, come back on. This one is good. Nothing wrong with it. These are just more brilliant. I find them easier to read, especially when it's really, really bright out, that kind of thing. Total personal preference. In general, in the past, I have not been a Coros fan because the heart rate reading was off. I tested every model they came out with. The heart rate was awful. They would never acknowledge it, but every runner I know who used it also agreed it was awful. I train by heart rate, so for me, that was a no-go. I will say they have put a new heart rate monitor in the Pace 3. It was very accurate until it got in any way, shape, or form cold outside. So that is not uncommon across a lot of watches, but whatever they did, massive improvement. And I know what they did. They changed the sensors and they added more sensors. It does also have some features on the Pace 3 that tend to be more high-end, like the Enduro kind of things, where you're getting some maps, some breadcrumb navigation. It is very, very basic, very, very basic. Most of the Coros watches also are not as heavy duty, meaning if I stepped on this, it is broken and it is done for, and it kind of feels that way. But that also means the watch is super duper light. So for a lot of you, that in itself is going to be worth it. Right now, the Pace 3 is $229. So the comparable Garmin in theory would be the 55, which is $140. So the next closest comparable is the 265 that I mentioned here, which now you're getting up to like $400. So their pricing has changed a little bit. This used to be much cheaper. 265 is going to have some additional things. All of them are going to have your smartphone notifications at this point. That is just par for the course on pretty much any of the newer GPS style watches. Garmin is going to have some of the built-in things as well, like the safety tracking, emergency features, crash detection, a little bit of that kind of stuff. The 265 and the Garmin Enduro, I have found to be the best at heart rate tracking in terms of the Garmin's. Again, higher end, pricier. You could go for the cheapest watch and just get a chest strap, as I have recommended many, many times. The only other difference to kind of look at with the two when you're trying to decide what's best for you is probably going to be the actual app. So the Garmin app is very into being part of your entire lifestyle. It has cycle tracking and all of those kinds of things. Coros is a little more streamlined. However, it does also have some workout features in there where you can target certain body parts. They have some new things where you can ask coaches questions. Obviously, it's not like one-on-one coaching, but there's a forum and you can use some of that kind of stuff. So Garmin does not have those. So that's kind of a general quick overview. I do have a link below that pits watches head to head in the different ranges of budget, mid-range, high-end, so you can see some of the side-by-side features and see if that helps you a little bit more. But hopefully this will answer some of the questions that I have been getting about Coros versus Garmin. As always, make sure you hit like, check out the link below, tell me if there's other things you want to hear about.